Ladies and gentlemen, this is Coda Jacobs, the crusader and visionary behind a brighter future in wrestling. If you're an honorable and noble public servant like myself, you are listening to the Game Changer Podcast.
Every single time I hear that theme music, it's just absolutely beautiful. Welcome to the Game Changer Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I am NateFNGreat. Feel free to check me out at Real Effing Game, and so many great podcasting plugs I could put in here. We're not here to talk about me or the Game Changer Podcast. We're here to talk about my guests here tonight. I'm very honored and very privileged to have with me two individuals who are not only movie critics, but definitely movie fans. Here with me here tonight, guys, is Peter and Brady from the Movie Men Podcast. Welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah.
I've been, honestly, I considered getting changed while driving today, just so that I wasn't late for this.
Well, I mean, it would be in the spirit of a game-changing deal, but it would have to be a serious game-changing, wardrobe change in order for it to work.
True.
Right.
True.
Fair.
But obviously, you guys, so much to talk about. But obviously, since you guys are the first time here, I'm actually having not one but two movie critics on here. This is actually going to be really interesting to kind of dissect your minds a little bit and see what goes on here. So I think the first question here for both of you guys is, how did the Movie Men Podcast come about? How'd you guys, first of all, meet, and why did you decide to do this podcast, the Movie Men Podcast?
I think it probably started in the nursery when Pete stole my soother, and I beat him with my light bright. Which really, honestly, light bright is not a toy you should be giving to. There's so many little pieces.
Right, but it's just the way it happened.
Yeah.
You can't rewrite history.
Yeah, some 25, 26, 27 years ago, we sat down and we're like, hey, someday when podcasts are a thing.
Right.
No, so in all reality,
we met last week.
It's kind of a weird. No, but honestly, it's a really weird story. It's an unlikely story.
Mm-hmm.
Pete and I have had mutual friends for a long time.
Right.
I've beat him at poker a couple of times.
Well, like once, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, but we never really got together and just hung out like buddies.
Right.
We were friends.
Yeah.
But we were kind of friends that bump into each other in other groups of friends type of thing.
Right.
So we weren't even really close before we started doing this. And then I've had a YouTube channel for years and years. So I've always been big into making and releasing content online.
Right.
And I made a Facebook post and I said, hey, I kind of want to do a podcast. And I don't really. I think I was pretty vague about the topic. I was like, I don't really care what it's about, but I like movies, so maybe we could do movies. Yeah. And Pete was like, okay, sign me up. And so then we, over the following weeks, we kind of got together and worked out a bunch of things. We worked out picking a name was a big thing. Yeah. And ordering microphones, getting ourselves to a audio standard that we were happy with. Took some time. So we got together like 4 or 5 times and didn't record anything. We were just kind of logistically planning it out.
And just even like ironing out our process and like just... Yeah.
And that was about 3 months ago, and we've released an episode at least once a week, sometimes twice a week ever since.
Yeah, so I will say this, and when it comes to podcasting, it is important to have, the proper equipment, and, honestly, one of the things that people have always said is, if the sound is great, that's what makes a podcast. If the content is great, that's what makes a podcast. So let me ask you guys this. When it comes to your guys' podcast, do you think the content is more important, or do you think like the finer details, like the sound, like the quality, like a lot of these other things that podcasters definitely have been hitting on, is more important when creating your guys' podcast?
Brady, I want your opinion. I honestly think it's equal. We do really take our audio quality seriously. We Brady has a hand of just like that's what he works with all along with his YouTubing background, and he's kind of forayed into that kind of stuff. So we do value the sound quality itself, and then our content, obviously we kind of match with that, and we just kind of want to make it like us just having a conversation about a movie and keep it interesting but informative, and I'd say about 50-50 split. I know that's kind of a boring answer, but...
Well, and so I think, what's interesting is ordering microphones was a big, lengthy process because I'm also a DJ, and so sound quality to me, I'm really uptight about it.
I can attest.
And so we've released some episodes where... because we've got growing pains, right? Even though, tonight after we're done talking to you, we're going to sit down and we're going to record our 15th episode. Nice. So even though we're 15 episodes in, we're still only 2.5 months in. Yeah. So there's still some growing pains. But so we've released some episodes that have got kind of some dodgy audio, just as we're figuring out what works and what doesn't. But what I have noticed is sometimes when we upload an episode that's got less than stellar audio, it doesn't take away from the content, and so that's been kind of really, it's been kind of eye-opening, and really I think our standard, or maybe more specifically my standard for audio quality, is a lot higher than other people's. So I think sometimes I'll get bent out of shape about the way the podcast sounds, and other people, like my girlfriend, will listen to it and say, it sounds fine. What do you... why are you uptight right now? So, yeah, I think it's both. I think at the end of the day, you can get away with less quality audio if you've got super stellar content. But I think you could have terrible content and really great audio, and your podcast isn't going to go anywhere, because nobody goes, well, that was hot trash, but boy, did it sound good.
Yeah, you can't make a good podcast with the quality of the audio, but you can break a podcast with the quality of the audio.
Sure, right.
Potential.
And that's the other thing, is if you've got great content, but it's constantly really staticky sounding, or you can't make out what anyone says. One guy's a lot quieter than the other. Pete keeps laughing and making the microphone clip. It's stuff like that we're working on.
Well, it's just one of those things where so many people can... I've said this so many times, is that I love technology. Sometimes it's like my best friend, but then there's other times where it's like... Where's my sledgehammer? I really need to just take my anger out just for a minute here.
Absolutely. That's right.
Just the blind rage, just...
Rage quit.
Not quite to the rage quit that I've seen with a lot of YouTube videos where they just break their equipment, but just one of those things where it's like, I need to just be myself, I need to go to a dark place, whatever happens, and then 5 seconds later it's like, where was I for that time? I just don't know. So obviously, you guys have definitely been getting a pretty good following. And last time I looked at your fan page, you reached about a little over 120 people have already liked your page. So you've definitely been getting some good traction for 2.5 months. That's definitely really good. And obviously, I think one of the things you guys definitely do is you not only interact with the people that are on your fan page, but you also give them the choice of what movies you guys should talk about. You've talked about, romantic comedies, action flicks, some comedy flicks, stuff like that. But let me ask this. What kind of goes into the brainstorming of picking out, these movies? Because a lot of people could pick, like, some of the best, action movies of all time, like, Indiana Jones versus Star Wars versus, say, James Bond or stuff like that. But you guys definitely seem like you have, like, a random theme in there that definitely ties in a lot of these movies together. So what kind of goes into that brainstorming mindset when it comes to coming up with a lot of these movies? Because some of these movies some people haven't even heard of.
So Brady's going to get into our process a little bit more in a second, but to kind of give you a preliminary idea, so we write down a category and kind of A through Z, type it on, like physically on paper, and then I kind of walk to my staircase into my basement, and I throw all the pages into the wind, and where they land, we pick what lands on the fourth stair, not the third, not the fifth, but the fourth stair, and it's worked for us so far, but we'll see if it kind of continues.
This is a process that I refuse to be a part of, so it always happens before I arrive. So there's a couple of things that are pretty intentional. So we picked 4 options specifically as a result of Facebook's picture uploading format. So 4 pictures, 4 movie posters is how many previews you can have showing on a post without having to click show me more. So you have the large one, and then you've got the 3 that kind of pop up down the side. So that's the reason for 4 and no more. As far as picking the genre goes, that's been kind of just it's been kind of just, hey, what do you want to do next? And so that's kind of been random that way. As far as picking the movies that we're going to do, the process that we've kind of landed on is that Pete will send me. So let's say the topic is so something we're talking about doing soon is maybe Robin Williams movies. And I haven't told Pete this yet, but I kind of want to refine that genre down even further and do non-comedy Robin Williams movies.
Right.
Okay. So we'll say non-comedy Robin Williams movies. And then that night, Pete will send me anywhere from 4 to 6 of his picks for non-comedy Robin Williams movies. At which point, I will compare that list with my list, and I'll pick 2 overlapping films. 2 films that appear on both of our lists. I tell Pete what those 2 are, and then Pete and myself are each allowed to veto in the 3rd and 4th pick. So Pete gets to say, okay, well, my additional one that I'm putting in, even if I don't want it to be there, the one that he's going to put in is such and such, and vice versa, right? So there's been plenty of times actually where movies are like where we've put the 4 movies out there, and because it's the other guy's pick that we don't really want to watch, we're kind of individually rooting against and for certain movies.
Oh yeah, big time.
And that's panned out in some ways, and in some ways it hasn't. Like there's definitely been, like when we reviewed Grease, and that wasn't the one that either of us really wanted to watch. But it was like, how do you not include Grease? Grease is, in that musical category.
Grease is the word, as they say.
Yeah. So I thought the bird was the word, but I'm behind the times.
It is kind of amazing when it comes to picking, certain movies, because like you said, there's some movies that you're just kind of like, well, I've heard of this movie, I've heard it's okay, maybe I'll give it a shot, and then you just leave it kind of thinking, man, I really did not want to see this movie, and I wish I did not see this movie. But then there's some that you kind of have that same mindset, and you leave like, wow, why have I not seen this movie sooner? It's literally one of the better movies that I've seen. And there's been like a handful of examples I could probably name off the top of my head. Probably the most recent one because I was in a performance of it, was the Midnight Summer's Dream that featured Christian Bale. And that was honestly one of those movies where I'm thinking, okay, well, I have this mindset of, what my characters have been doing in our show, so let's just see what these go. And I'm literally watching this thinking, some of these are actually really, really... Oh, it's got Michelle Pfeiffer in it, too. So this was literally like, okay, so you literally got Batman and Catwoman in this. Yeah, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. So there's a good positive to this. At least I could say they were both in the same movie. Different,
I was hoping you were going to say Cats. I really wanted you to say that you were in a production of Cats.
Oh, God. No,
that's next summer, right?
Oh, my gosh. I literally should...
Sorry, side note, have you seen the trailer for Cats?
I have seen that trailer for Cats. That is the stuff on Nightmares.
It's like... I don't know, because my understanding is that the original production was really weird as well. So I don't think there was a way to do the movie and not have it be weird. But I said to my mom because I showed her the trailer, and she said, "Oh, that looks really great," because she's like from that generation. Okay. But I said, honestly, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I'm watching something I should. I feel like I've stumbled upon a dirty video on the internet because they're all like these anthropomorphic cat naked people who don't have any genitals. They're all just kind of these weird naked cat people. So to me, it's like I just feel weird watching this. I don't know why, but
there's certain things in this world that I just have no interest in. So like crystal meth or cocaine, or like the play or the movie or the trailer for the movie of Cats. Like those things, I just have I have no inclination of I'm going to go check out that movie. So I'm.
Oh, that's it. We have to review it.
No, no.
That'll be a midweek bonus episode right there.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be an episode I might actually be listening to, and I could just imagine Pete's first words are just, "I don't know if this podcast is going to go on any further because I hate the fact that I saw this movie, and there's so much of me that just hated it." But here's the thing about it, is that I will defend the Cats production in a way that, at least these cats look kind of, the performers doing the musical, it actually looks really well done. I mean, the costumes look absolutely great. They don't look like they're just like, CGI animated, faces that were on there. They looked like, legit cats if they were people. It actually looks very natural. Yes, there's crazy stuff involved in it, but that's kind of one of the things we love about movies. I mean, my God, freaking Avengers Endgame made $2 billion, and that was just a huge fight over a bunch of stones that apparently can control the universe. So,
yeah, well, and I mean, as far, casting-wise, as far as picking people to be in a they've got strong James Corden, who we all know can sing. Taylor Swift, right? Taylor Swift is in it.
Okay, I will watch this. I retract everything I said before. I will be viewing this. Maybe not in the theaters, but
Pete is a not so closeted Swiftie.
You belong to me, as they say.
It's one of those things where I think that ever since she had that deal with the Lorax where she was involved in the movie, it's like, I guess, her film roles can only go up at that point.
I was so disappointed by the Lorax. I grew up watching the original, the 1960s or 70s animated Lorax. Mm-hmm. And all of those songs are great, and the animation is great, and it's a lot of fun. And then I went to go see the new Lorax, and I was like, what just happened?
They added too much comedy, and the ending was
too much to it.
They added too much exhibition. That's the problem. Is that they
added a romance.
They added a romance. They added a deal where it's like, the Onceler, he could be a good guy. In the end, it's like, that's not the point of the story.
And that was it. They killed the wonder of who the Onceler was. They showed us the Onceler. They showed us that he was actually just a Who with green gloves on. Whereas in the original one, you're like, all you ever saw were these green arms and green hands. You didn't really know what the heck he was.
Yeah, no, that was a bit of a killer. And honestly, it really hasn't gotten better. I mean, I've gone on record to say that the animated Grinch is just... it's one of those few movies that I look at and I'm just like, man, why is it that Jim Carrey Grinch looks so much better in comparison to this movie? And so many people have said, no, the Grinch one is dumb. It got this, and it's got dog kissing, getting kissed on the butt. It's like, yeah, I can subtract those things all just because of Jim Carrey's performance, though.
That movie is incredible. Right. Honestly, that movie gets Jim Carrey's Grinch gets so much hate that I don't understand, because it's hilarious.
I mean, kids nowadays, they still love that Grinch.
Absolutely.
I'm more of a cartoon Grinch.
Well,
the original.
I think I did actually do like a comparison, like all three Grinches on which one was the better one. And, it was a clear-cut tie for a while, but I think I went in the direction of the Jim Carrey one. But the cartoon Grinch definitely is number 2. But it's still really good. It's still classic that just holds out. And I know people, we're talking about Christmas, and it's only in August right now. Get used to it, because next month they're going to do more Christmas stuff. Guarantee it.
So today I was reading a story for my daughter, and I went straight for How the Grinch Stole Christmas, because I said, hey, this is a good story. I don't care what month it is. Let's read it. As a side note, that has nothing to do with this podcast.
That's funny. That's funny, Pete. Thanks for that joke. For just keeping the flow of the podcast moving. That's great.
So I do want to ask this. So whether it's doing this for the podcast or just everything that you've done beforehand, has there ever been a movie that you guys have just absolutely dreaded? And Pete, we'll start with you. Has there just been a movie that you kind of went in kind of like, okay, this might not be so bad, then literally afterwards it's just a huge amount of regrets, just thinking, why did I waste my money on this movie?
As far as the podcast goes, for me it was Grease. Like, Grease ended, and literally I was like, why? Why? Like, Grease isn't an awful movie, but it's not a great movie, and it's really over. It's been built up too much. It's been put on this pedestal that it does not deserve. So for me, it was Grease. I was dreading Grease, and I didn't enjoy Grease, and Grease is just awful.
You got something against John Travolta?
No. Brady,
oh, no.
Brady is a huge JT fan.
Oh, I would take my shirt off and roll around in a vat of pudding with John Travolta. But
That's a little far.
But I just don't. I don't know. I just like it. It's good as a cult classic, whatever. But I just, I don't know.
Yeah, if we're just talking podcast, the only thing that's really standing out to me, like I'd agree with what Brady said, Grease, there are so many more movies I'd rather watch that are musicals. He made me watch this movie called The Jerk, and it was honestly the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
It's so good. It's so good.
Anyway, we'll skip over that.
I have a question for you, Nathan. I think I need you to help us settle a debate.
All right.
So, the plan, full disclosure, the plan is to be doing this podcast for years to come.
Yeah.
And I don't think we plan on, it's kind of one of those, if it ain't broke, don't break it further. So we'll probably keep the format the same. We'll probably upload for 4 movie choices from a category, and we'll pick one of the movies, or we'll let the audience pick the movies, and that's what we'll review. Now, my thoughts are, before we break into subcategories, right? Before we get into things like, sci-fi crime thrillers or whatever, before we pick like these really, and the great thing is we will revisit. Like all the time we'll post something, we'll be like, oh, this is the movie that we're doing, or these are the 4 movies from the treasure hunting category, and someone will be like, how the hell did you not include such and such a film? And I say, okay, we are going to revisit these genres, which means they're, give it time. The next time around, maybe that movie will be in. So just, relax. But anyways, my thought is, before we get to all these little subgenres, we need to knock out the main genres. We need to do the main film genres. Now, there's one film genre that I am not the world's biggest fan of.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, you do. I'm not the world's biggest fan of, but I enjoy them. I think they're fun. And I recognize that a big part of the viewing audience, or listening audience, is possibly a fan of, but Pete is dead set against doing a film from the genre. So I want to hear from you, Nathan.
Okay.
Should we do the horror genre, or should we not?
The horror genre. All right, so are we talking like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, like that kind of horror genre?
See, so that was a suggestion of mine, right? We could start with like 80s slasher flicks, right? So we could do, or we could call it the mascots of horror, right? So from that, you've got like Ghostface, you've got Leatherface, you've got Chucky, you've got Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger.
Okay. Honestly, even if, you're kind of against it, Pete, I say go for it. I mean, you guys are called the Movie Men Podcast. You got to cover a lot of the bases, a lot of these huge, genres. Horror, I will say this, I think horror has definitely kind of fallen out of the, theatrical radar for so long. Because you look at, like, a lot of the stuff back then, they were just doing, like, horror movie after horror movie after horror movie, and some of them were just really good. Some of them were fantastic. And it actually helps you appreciate some of the, classic effects. Like, you can look at some of the things, like, I'll use Nightmare on Elm Street as an example, because Freddy Krueger, he's my boy. He's a guy that I've definitely just been a huge fan of for years. Robert Englund, oh my gosh, just I feel like he can never be replaced. Never.
Right. Not that the guy, whatever his name is, the guy that played Rorschach in The Watchmen.
Yeah.
And did not that his Freddy Krueger was an awful Freddy Krueger, but it wasn't the same as Robert Englund.
Exactly. So basically, you kind of watch these classic deals. Yes, you'll still have like those, creepy kind of vines, but it also kind of helps you look back and you kind of see the humble beginnings that horror movies had to do. There were some things where people had to legit do these, stunt work in order to make it work, and they had to use some of these, different tricks and different deals to make everything look so realistic. And you kind of look at it and you're thinking, wow, I kind of miss these kind of practical effects compared to the random cheesy CGI effects that we've seen, nowadays. There's probably some people that have gone back and said, we're going to go back to when this person used, maybe like a certain kind of like syrup or something like that to make it look like it did look like somebody's chest was getting just mutilated. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh gosh, okay, that actually looks legit real. That doesn't look like a CGI deal. This looks like something where it's legitimately killing the person. So so to be honest, I say go for it. I say go for the horror movie genre. Definitely have no regrets going into it. And honestly, I don't think you can have any regrets coming out of it either.
Agreed. Thank you.
Only time will tell.
He is mentally flipping you off right now.
I can imagine.
Pretty sure.
Well, this podcast has been a slice, folks. Now we got it.
No, I'm pretty sure there's no way he can not do it now.
I mean, I'm just one fan amongst 122 or something like that. So I'm just a grain of salt compared to this community.
No. Your vote counts for 5.
Oh my gosh. So guys, we're going to take a little quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we're going to switch things up a bit. It's going to be kind of interesting, kind of seeing what goes on in the next part of this podcast. So stay tuned, guys. Here with the Movie Men Podcast. Definitely stick around. It's going to be awesome. Hi, I'm NateFNGreat. You know what's really fun, you guys, is just spending some time creating wrestling moments, whether it's being in the crowd, cutting promos, or just really kind of beating each other up with a chair or a trash can. Well, let's just say that there's a safer way to doing that without using the actual chair or a trash can. Go over to Great Minds Revolution Incorporated. My buddy Kurt has actually created a very safe and fun way to be a wrestling fan without the necessary lawsuits of basically beating each other up with real stuff. He has an inflatable chair that is really fun to just whack around, and it could also double as a little floaty for a pool. He also has the inflatable trash can, which, you guys, is really awesome because let's say maybe you don't want to use it for wrestling matches. You could use it at your barbecue, your next big tailgate party, whatever you could think of. Great Minds Revolution, Inc. They do a great job on making wrestling fun again. Proud friends of the Game Changer Podcast.
Hey everyone, it's the Princess of Pro Wrestling, SoCal Val. You are listening to the Game Changer Podcast. Sending lots of love from California. Mwah.
Alright guys, welcome back to the Game Changer Podcast. I am NateFNGreat, being joined here by the Movie Men Podcast. Time for round 2 of the interview, guys, with these two absolutely phenomenal gentlemen. So, with that being said, gentlemen, are you ready for round 2?
Yeah, let's turn this up a notch. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Movie Men podcast. Yeah. Well, actually, the Movie Men podcast takeover.
We've taken over.
Where we show up on the Game Changer podcast, and we show them how things are done.
No prisoners.
And we, we just kind of, we take no prisoners, no survivors. We're here to...
But we do take reservations.
To decapitate your regular host with our movie reviewing ways. We are movie internet gurus.
I don't know if I'd say that.
What, that we're going to decapitate them, or that we're gurus?
Both.
Why?
Maybe one. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
one of those two things are a lie, and it's up to the listeners to discern which.
True. Yeah, we're definitely not gurus. So
no.
we, So I don't know. What do you want to talk about, Pete?
Yeah.
What movies? What? Okay, let's interview Nathan here for a second. Nathan, what's your guilty pleasure movie?
Ooh,
what is a movie that you really, really like, but you would never let any of your listeners know that you really, really like? You should just say that right now.
Oh gosh. I think honestly, right now, I would probably say Moulin Rouge. Just because that there's so many people that hate it because it's so bad, quote unquote. But it's one of those movies that I look at it and I think to myself, yeah, it has a lot of copyright stuff, but I could still enjoy it because, it's awesome. It's got Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's got Nicole Kidman. It's got these great characters in there. I get it, but it's a good movie. I really enjoyed it. I like the story. It has a really very horrible ending, but at the same time, I loved it. That was awesome.
I'm such a big Ewan McGregor fan.
Oh, that's one of those movies has like a very big reputation. I've never seen it, but it's got a big following. Have you seen it, Brady?
I have not.
No.
Sorry.
But yeah, I would watch a movie about Ewan McGregor, like at a farmer's market, like picking out cabbages. If it's better than that, I'm sure it is. So
you haven't seen Cabbage Kingdom?
What did it come out?
Oh, it's a film.
Oh my gosh!
Very good.
I saw the trailer.
Very good. He just slices cabbages with a lightsaber all day.
I would watch that. I would seriously watch that.
Pete, you must have some trivia.
Oh, boys, are you ready, Nathan?
All right, I'm in.
We've got a brand new Ferrari on the line.
Oh, sweet.
And by that, I mean just pride. There's no prize at all.
There's no prize. It's not even bragging rights, because no one will care.
So, I've got... There are kind of vague, non-specific questions, just because we didn't have a topic, so bear with me. They're not the best questions, but they're questions nonetheless.
Well, I mean, why change it up now?
Hey, you know what? If you stay consistent.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, Toy Story 4 just cleared the 1 billion worldwide mark. That's a lot of coin.
Yeah.
What other 3 Pixar movies have cleared the 1 billion worldwide mark? What other 3 Pixar movies?
Pixar movies, okay. I want to say... No, it's not Pixar. It's
hard, right? There's a lot of animated movies that come to mind. It's like, wait, that's not Pixar.
If you're Googling it right now, we will know.
We have a drone outside.
We're monitoring your screen at the moment. So.
Oh, here it is. I want to say Inside Out.
No.
Oh, that was a good movie.
It was very good.
Oh, gosh. Let's see.
Brady, do you have any guesses? And Nathan, both of you.
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
Worldwide.
Okay. Worldwide. So I'm going to say The Incredibles 2.
That's one, actually. So that's one of the 3.
That was a good movie, too. Damn it.
That was really good, actually.
Up?
No.
God damn.
Come on, Nathan. What are you doing to our team here?
That's a legit guess.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, I'm going to guess Coco.
Sorry, what?
Coco?
No.
Oh, sorry, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I was about to say, you're bringing...
You're going to rip on Up?
Hey, Coco was heartwarming and heartbreaking, and I fell asleep partway through, so I don't know.
Is your next guest going to be like some indie movie that we've never heard of? Sorry.
Oh, I've got a guess, but you go first, Nathan.
Toy Story 3.
So, yep, that's 2 of the 3. Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 3. One more.
I'm going to say Finding Dory.
Yeah, you guys got it.
Oh,
Just
nice.
because everyone was all like, "Oh, we need Ellen back."
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't one of those people that was asking for Ellen back. I enjoyed the movie, but it wasn't one of those movies where it was like, oh, I need this movie. It's like, I could take it or leave it.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as...
Yeah, I'm not sure if there needed to be more told of that story, like in that universe, but, I mean, everyone loved it and ate it up, so...
The other thing that Pixar did that was, I mean, aside from the fact that they won't stop making Cars movies, what the hell is that?
Cars 7 is...
Oh my gosh, and planes and trains and whatever else they've made. Now, but the other thing they did was for years we were like, we need another Monsters, Inc. movie because we want to see what happens with Boo and we want to see where this universe goes. Right. And then they're like, okay, we'll give you a prequel where they're all in university. And we're like, why?
Right.
It's not what we asked for.
Right. I've got one more question.
Okay.
This one, guys, it's more like I'm going to give you 4 movies and it's a ranking question.
Oh,
Okay?
gosh. This is like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. This ought to be fun.
Yeah, get ready.
But you do have lifelines.
Yes. His name is Brady.
Yes. So call me.
Yeah.
All right.
Beat me if you want to reach me.
Yeah. So, Spider-Man Far From Home has, as of now, become Sony's highest-grossing film.
I saw that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Worldwide we're talking here. Rank these other Sony movies in order of worldwide gross. Okay? So, go from highest to lowest. So I'm going to give these 4 random movies from Sony. You got to say which was the highest and which was the lowest.
Okay.
Angels and Demons, Hancock, The Amazing Spider-Man, and finally, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle.
Okay, so...
Wait, so what's the question?
So, which of those 4 movies was the most lucrative, and then which was the second, which was the third, which was the fourth?
And what are the options?
Angels and Demons,
Yeah.
Hancock,
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man,
Yeah.
Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle.
Okay. I'm going to take a stab at it. So I'm going to go with Amazing Spider-Man, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Hancock, Angels and Demons.
You're close.
Did I get any of them even right?
You did. Before I tell you what you had right, I'm going to see if Brady wants to stab.
Okay, I'm going to say that even though it didn't deserve it,
Okay.
I'm going to say that Welcome to the Jungle was probably in first place, only because it has Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in it.
Right.
I thought it's a funny movie. It didn't deserve the Jumanji title, but whatever. So I'm going to say probably Welcome to the Jungle.
Okay.
Then, what were the other options?
So Angels and Demons, Hancock, Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay, I'm going to say Amazing Spider-Man next, just because it's an MCU movie.
Sure. So Amazing Spider-Man was MCU?
Amazing Spider-Man. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm still going to say Amazing Spider-Man just because it's
Spider-Man.
It's Spider-Man.
Sure.
Yeah. Then I will say Hancock just because it's Will Smith.
Sure.
And then very sadly, because it's my favorite movie out of those 4, I'm going to say Angels and Demons.
So that is actually, so yeah, Nathan, you were super close. It is Jumanji, then Amazing Spider-Man, then Hancock, then Angels and Demons. So you just had you had your 1-2 flopped, but then other than that, you had it, and Brady got it.
So close, but it sucks to suck. So
you're just
awful. What did you watch this week, Nathan?
Yeah.
Honestly, I've been watching a lot of more just like wrestling related stuff, but I will say this, that tomorrow I am going to get a chance to watch that movie Ready or Not. That's kind of seems like a horror / dark comedy movie where it's
sure.
Yeah, the one that talks about the bride getting married into the family and she has to survive the night in order to be a part of the family, that kind of deal.
Because your day job gives you an advantageous standpoint when it comes to seeing films, correct?
That is true. I work 2 jobs, work at Quick Trip as well as the theater, so I got a little bit of an unfair advantage there. But I will say this, that if I could recommend like a couple of movies that I've seen throughout this year that I thought were really good. And no, it's not just purely Marvel movies, although, like I've said before, Spider-Man Endgame, oh my god, those are amazing. A recent one that I saw that, I wasn't really fully on board, but I still enjoyed it for what it was worth. I loved the chemistry between the two main lead roles, was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. For some reason in my notes I have Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I don't know why.
I haven't seen it yet.
Once Upon a Time in Mexico is such a great movie.
I mean, Quentin Tarantino has made like 6 movies in his entire life, and this is one of them. There's a reason why it's really good. I like the chemistry between Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I think that their characters are absolutely amazing. They're probably like the standalone deals in this entire movie.
Right.
They, of course, show the whole Margot Robbie deal, but I will not lie. She's just kind of there. It's not one of those things where I'm kind of like, I'm invested. I want to see what she's doing. It's like, no, she's just kind of there.
She's just breathing oxygen.
You know what? If in my life, Margot Robbie was just kind of always there, that would not be a bad thing. I'd be okay with that.
No, I would definitely agree with that, because, I mean, she was also one of the redeeming qualities of Suicide Squad, to be fair.
She is.
Right.
I honestly, except from... Okay, this is unpopular opinion time.
Okay.
Before you get that, I haven't even seen Suicide Squad.
Okay, go ahead, Pete.
Is that unpopular?
Pete? I mean, I was just talking, but if you want to interrupt and...
I'm sorry.
And blaspheme the internet with your, I haven't seen Suicide Squad garbage, then that's fine. So, unpopular opinion time. Sorry, I was just waiting to see if I was going to get interrupted. With the exception of Enchantress, I thoroughly enjoyed Suicide Squad. The only part I didn't like was so now we have a villain who just kind of waves her arms around in the air, and we're not exactly sure what she's doing. But
no.
I thought Will Smith was fantastic in it.
Mm-hmm.
I would stab Pete in the jugular right now if it meant that Batman was on the line. I absolutely I live, breathe, and die Batman. And it seeing in that movie, like, Batman wasn't in it very much. But that moment when Batman arrests Deadshot and he pulls out the bat cuffs, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I was fanboying all over the person in front of me in the theater. Felt very bad. I owed them an apology.
Did you wipe up the drool out of their hair?
No, they didn't notice that after. But no, so that's my little side note. I really like Suicide Squad. I'm not so crazy about Enchantress. Batman vs. Superman was a total letdown. That was, what was that garbage? But
the only redeeming thing about that was Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. We all know that. And then she went on to make one of the best movies of all time. My God.
And Jeremy Irons as Alfred. I think Jeremy Irons made a really good Alfred.
No, I could definitely agree with that. Although I think I'm particular to Michael Caine as Alfred.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even then, on that day, not even I will want to say I told you so. That was the worst Michael Caine impression. Michael Caine was not dead. Is he dead? He's not dead.
No, he's
Michael
not
Caine
dead.
is not dead. Just rolled over in his grave. When I said that.
That's the first thing people are going to notice at his funeral, is that he just rolls over in his coffin. It's like, why'd that happen? And I'm just going to be like, Brady, you called it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh,
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean,
well, if you want, I still got a couple other movies I could recommend. The movie Crawl that had the hurricane and the alligators was legitimately really good. I think there was only like a couple of nitpicks here and there that we had with the movie, but me and my friend Max, we watched it and we were like enjoying it so much because it was kind of one of those thrillers where you had to deal with what was going on with the hurricane, but you also had these alligators that could just pop up out of nowhere. So it's like, okay, you got two different kind of clashing climate deals here that you don't know which one's going to.
Sounds like a Sharknado thing.
You know what? That movie can just burn. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of that whole entire deal. I understand that there's a lot of celebrities that have gone through it, and they probably have been really good, but at the same time, this was only one of those things that just kept Tara Reid alive, or just reminding us that, hey, remember that chick from Bandcamp? remember that chick from American Pie? Yeah, she's still alive. And it's like, great. Another blonde that we didn't really ask for in Hollywood. Just great. I'm sorry. I might be a little bit towards Tara Reid, but like I said, Crawl was really good. A couple other movies, I'll just name them off. Midsummer, I thought was unique, and it was one of those movies that I literally left kind of just awe-inspired and just absolutely like, wow, that was unexpected. This comes as no surprise. Godzilla King of the Monsters was just absolutely fantastic. It's a movie about monsters, and people are complaining there's not very many human moments. Wow, you don't say. So a monster movie that's more about the monsters is getting flack because there's not very human interactions. What's wrong with this picture? I couldn't possibly have guessed that. Detective Pikachu I thought was funny. Maybe this is another guilty pleasure in here. I actually loved Ugly Dolls. I thought it was actually really hilarious, and there were a couple points where I'm like, wow, they actually created a very, very entertaining kids film. I kind of like this. Pretty good. And I think the first movie I saw this year, definitely one of my favorites, was the movie Glass. The greatest, crossover between Samuel Jackson, James McAvoy, Bruce Willis. Just awesome.
Right. So confession time. I have not seen Unbreakable, Split, or Glass.
So you're throwing rocks at glass houses when you're like, oh, we haven't seen Suicide Squad, but you haven't seen that?
Yeah, well,
like what were you?
I mean, I have them all. I just need to sit down and watch them.
Oh, I have all these life-saving drugs, but I can't cure diseases. That's basically what you just said.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah, come on, man.
I apologize. I'm now not only a disappointment to my mother, but to the entire internet as well.
Oh my gosh, I have no regrets when it comes to asking you guys to come on, because this is the chemistry that I've really enjoyed listening to your guys' podcast. It's just absolutely amazing. But let me ask you guys this to kind of, we got like 15 minutes, but this is kind of one of those things where maybe it kind of goes into like a prelude to what's to come into the future. What are some movies that you guys are looking forward to when it comes to the rest of the year? Is there any movies out there that just kind of stand out to be like, gosh, I'm looking forward to this movie? Because, I mean, some people might say, well, Endgame was the only one. It's like, no, we still got like 4 more months, and there's still some really good movies coming out.
So the two for me that I think will end up. So we do 2 kind of main episodes on our show. We do our weekly episode where we put out the movie genre and people vote, and then we review it. And then occasionally, if there's something big and hot in the theaters, we'll rush right out and see it. On a cheap. So do you guys have cheap night in the States? So we're coming. By the way, we're coming live from about 2 hours north of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So, we don't actually say it like that. We say Canada. I don't want to perpetuate any stigmas about Canada being stupid. But we also have ketchup-flavored chips, and our milk occasionally comes in a bag. Right. But what do you guys have cheap nights at your theaters?
For us at Marcus Theaters, they're called $5 Tuesdays. So that's happening right now as we speak.
Okay. Yep.
So we have Tuesday is our cheap night.
Yeah.
It's not like this probably works out pretty similar with the Canadian American dollar, but I think if we wanted to go to so up here we have a chain of theaters called Cineplex.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like a Silver City, basically, but or an AMC, but it's for us, it's Cineplex. I think to go see a regular 2D, nothing fancy kind of movie on a Tuesday night is $6 and change, $6.20 or $6.25. So, anyways. I don't know how we ended up on that, but so the movies that we're probably going to hop out to the theater and see to do sort of a while it's hot review. One for me is It Chapter 2, which I still need to convince Pete. Pete hasn't seen the first It.
Okay, have you seen it, Nathan?
I have seen not only the first one from 2 years ago, but I've also seen the actual
The Tim Curry one.
The Tim Curry one, the TV series in there.
Yeah.
And I will say this, that it is a long movie when you watch it as a movie, because when they had it back then, it was like a TV series. But when you watch it as a movie, it is really long. I will say the ending is kind of anticlimactic and kind of just like, huh. So that's my only concern going into It Chapter 2. It's like, okay, they had this really meh kind of ending in 1990. Let's hope that here in 2019 they change it to something better.
You've seen. What did you think of the first It from like 2 years ago?
I legit loved it. I have seen
it's
critics.
So good.
It's one of those things where it's still absolutely just creepy. And yes, there are some points during it where it gets to be too funny. But we all have to remember, he's a clown. Not everything he's going to do is going to be scary. Some of the stuff is going to be funny. Like that whole deal where he pops out of the carriage and he does that little dance of like a hillbilly deal where he's just doing the arms up and down, legs flopping up. It's just like, okay, that's funny. That's creepy, but that's funny when you're looking back at it. I legit loved it.
And honestly, there are moments when you're watching it that you kind of forget that you're watching a horror film. Like, and it just becomes a character movie, because so much of that movie, so much of the emphasis in that movie is put into developing the relationship between these kids.
Well, we could thank Finn Wolfhard for that, because he basically almost made his own movie in this movie.
It's so good. But yeah, so I'm a big Bill Hader fan. James McAvoy's in it. Like I cannot tell you how excited I am for It Chapter 2. And there's been so much talk about how it is going to be it's been given an R rating for intense violence, very disturbing scenes, strong nudity and sexuality. And apparently this is going to be one of the bloodiest, goriest, awful. They're just pulling all the stops. And I to me, I'm not a big over-the-top, gory, whatever person, but if you tell me that you're going to take the movie that you gave me a couple years ago that I loved, and you're going to turn up the notch on it, like 5 notches, I'm so excited. The other one that I can't begin to tell you how, I stay up at night thinking about this. I'm a big, we've already talked about my relationship with Batman and the Batman universe. And I adore Joaquin Phoenix. So the fact that we are getting a Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix as the lead, we will be there opening night to see that film.
That is just one of those films that I think a lot of people don't know what to expect from this, because I think that Heath Ledger, God rest the man's soul, he definitely raised the bar when it came to playing the role of the Joker. I mean, a lot of us remember the fact that Mark Hamill played an incredible Joker, and I think there are some people that probably would have liked for him to play it, even at his age. They'd probably be like, oh, dude, he'd make an amazing one. Just have him do the cackling laugh and the voice and everything. They're giving it to somebody else who could probably still kill it, and I've seen the trailers for it, and it looks really good. I'm kind of interested in seeing how this Joker plays out. Is it going to be like a Heath Ledger deal, or is it going to be just like a legit rebooting of the whole entire Joker deal? Whatever it is, I'm open to it. I'm looking forward to it. As long as it's anything that's not the Jared Leto Joker, which, what the hell was that? I'm done.
You know what? There were moments, I don't like what they did with the tattoos and stuff. I wasn't a big fan of the design of him stylistically, but his relationship with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, I think, was a very exciting thing, just because we've never seen that on the screen before. When he rescues her and they're in the back of the plane, and he says something to her along the lines of, "Come on, baby, I've got some grape soda on ice in the back." It was those little moments that I was like, "Ooh, this is cool." And I had a world of respect for him to be the one to follow up Heath Ledger's Joker, and to realize that he had to make the Joker his own thing. He had to bring an entirely new interpretation of the character to the screen.
No, I could definitely see that coming, and I can definitely agree with that. Mr. Pete, do you have any movies that you're looking forward to for this year?
I do. So I'm going to skim over kind of what I'd consider the more mainstream ones. So obviously everyone and their dog is looking forward to Zombieland 2 and Frozen 2.
Yes.
But what?
Let it go.
Damn it.
Two that I'm looking forward to. One, they're all mainstream. Like, I'm not picking out some indie movie from Europe or anything. But one that I'm looking forward to is Doctor Sleep, the semi-sequel to The Shining. Right. So that, and it has a friend of both our shows, Ewan McGregor, starring in it. So that, I think, just is worth the price of admission alone.
Which means I should probably finally get around to seeing The Shining.
Yes. Yeah. But you should review. I will review that horror movie every day, twice on Sundays. But that's beside the point. Another movie that I'm looking forward to. I'm not sure. I think it's a mainstream movie. I don't think it's that indie. It's not with the actors that it has in it, but it has Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson in it, and it's completely in black and white, and it's called The Lighthouse. And I think it's got a very eerie, uncomfortable feel to it. And that's all I'm going to say, and I'm interested to see it.
Huh.
I think I've seen previews for The Lighthouse, and it does look kind of interesting. But yeah, you mentioned the whole the whole Dr. Sleep deal. I mean, my God, just thank you, please. I mean, and also I can go bonsai crazy over the fact that Zombieland is finally getting a sequel called The Double Tap. I'm totally okay with this. I was one of those people that were marking out like crazy when the trailer came out, and I'm just seeing, everybody back. And even that, my favorite line from that whole entire deal is just Tallahassee just saying, "It's not that I don't like hippies. I just want to beat the shit out of them."
Honestly, my only expectations going into that movie, even though obviously if it is, it'll be a big surprise. They're not going to make it a part of any of the marketing. I really want to see Bill Murray.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, it's got to happen.
High five. That's awesome.
Bill Murray zombie. So if I could pick two movies that I'm looking forward to, I will definitely say that I never thought I was going to be looking forward to this, but ever since a couple of the live-action remakes have kind of flopped a bit, now it's one of those things where it's like,
don't say it. Don't say it.
Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. That.
Okay. I thought you were going to say Maleficent.
No. That one I'm still very hesitant about, for obvious reasons. But Mistress of Evil is one of those things I'm looking at. It's like, okay, they're basically taking Disney, having Maleficent, and then they're going to make it kind of Game of Thrones-esque. I'm okay with this.
And the first Maleficent was amazing.
It was actually a lot better than I've given credit for. I think when I first watched it, I was just like, nah, I'm not really big on it. But now I'm just like, this actually is a better movie than I thought it was. I wish that we would have seen, Maleficent as a dragon, but it's like, we still got a dragon. I'm okay with this. Just stop complaining, okay? And the other thing I'm looking forward to is, and a lot of people are not going to like this, but I'm still looking forward to Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. As much as people are not big on the whole, Last Jedi, and they didn't like Solo, I don't care. I'm a Star Wars fan through and through. I'm looking forward to seeing how they play off everything that happened with Last Jedi. How's the final confrontation going?
At the end of the day, it's Star Wars. You could do. It doesn't matter how bad you've burned me. I'm gonna come watch Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm a glutton for Star Wars.
And for all those people who say they're not, really, is sitting at home doing that Sudoku puzzle that you can do the other 364 days of the year, really, is it going to be that bad that you don't want to see it over Sudoku? Come on. Stop lying. You're going to see it.
No, I think that's pretty
Sudoku puzzle will be there when you get home.
So oddly enough, that actually makes a lot of good points. And to be honest, there's somebody that's going to say, Sudoku is just like this Jedi game that they play in Star Wars. Be like, so you're literally playing a Star Wars game and you want to hate on it. Bravo, you're a hypocrite. Bravo. You fool. Oh my gosh. I need the Gilbert Gottfried Hollywood Squares deal where he just keeps telling people, you fool! It's just so funny. So we're just about wrapped up with this edition of the Game Changer Podcast. Before we go, I do have one more question I want to ask you guys, and then we go into the cheap plugs and everything like that. I do want to ask this.
There is one more thing I'd like to add too. So if it's not the question that you're asking, then I'll add it. But
okay.
Ask away.
The question I wanted to ask is, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, you guys decide to go your separate ways, or you decide, hey, we're kind of at the point where we've reached our peak. there's nowhere to go for this podcast. At the end of the day, what do you want people to kind of, get out of your guys' podcast? What is something that you would want them to kind of remember you guys by?
For me, it's that despite Pete's amphetamine problem, that we were able to. He was able to be sober long enough each week to put an episode out, and if that's not a story of strength and of perseverance, then I don't know what is.
Pete, you got anything to add?
I'm not going to top that, I guess. That's the human experience and a half. But, I guess it's just fun to, and when you boil it down, it's just kind of weekly conversations that we have about movies, and movies are just another form of art, and they reflect the human story and our geopolitical climate and everything like that, and if we can just be a part of it and kind of share our experiences with other people and they can find it entertaining, then that's great.
That's so deep. I really just want people to listen to my podcast. Honestly, at the end of the day, I just want to, solicit myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Jesus. All right, so guys, I've given this floor to a lot of people that have been on the show, so I would love it if you guys could do the same. Plug away how people can find you, how they can interact with you, and if you have anything else big that's coming up, by all means, plug away.
Okay, so right now we're on Podbean. Podbean's kind of the easiest way to listen to us.
Yep.
The easiest way to find us is just by punching the Movie Men Podcast into Facebook. We post quite a bit. That's going to be your easiest way of voting on what movie we do next. We do have an Instagram page, which, Nathan's. I mean, all of these links Nathan's gonna post all over everywhere for us, so that so that you can find it real easy. That's kind of it. We're, Pete's in the process. I think we're going to end up on iTunes quite shortly, possibly Google Podcasts or something like that. So we'll kind of see where that goes. The big thing that's kind of next for us, sort of the big hurdle that we actually have coming up, is that in about a week, so like I said, we're about 2 hours north of Toronto, Ontario, and in about a week and a half, one of us, meaning me, is going to be moving to Toronto. So there's going to be a 2-hour distance between the two of us, which isn't going to end our podcast.
No.
There might be like a week or two hiatus. We're hoping not. We're going to try to record some episodes in advance so that it's kind of a seamless transition. The biggest thing again for me is it's going to come back to audio quality. I am 99% certain that although Pete and I will be in 2 separate cities, that when we record and upload a podcast, you will not be able to tell the difference between us sitting in the same room and the fact that he's sending his audio to me over the internet. So I'm pretty excited about the technique that I have planned out and how we're going to do that, and so hopefully everything pans out. It'll be a bit of it'll be a little different for us because right now we sort of feed off each other's energy sitting across the room from each other. So it'll take a little bit of adjustment, but we knew that this move was happening when we started the podcast, and obviously didn't think that it was a big issue then. And so, I don't think it should hinder us too much.
Well, looking forward to seeing how that goes. So, guys, like they said, they mentioned their stuff. Definitely check them out. Give them likes. Give them comments. And be respectful about them. Well, except for Brady, he might need a couple of comics every now and then because I think he's been picking on Pete just a little too much. But that's just me. Maybe I'm on Team Pete. Maybe I'm on Team Brady. I think I need to make that a poll for the page.
Pete wears a shirt. So we've right now, Pete is wearing a T-shirt that says "Punish Me." Like, what am I supposed to do?
It says "Punisher."
Oh, well, close enough.
Yeah, it doesn't actually. I'm wearing a shirt that has a big smiley face on it, actually.
And I'm not wearing a shirt. But that's a whole different, every week one of us wears a shirt, the other one wears pants, and we alternate.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm available on Spreaker.com along so many other great podcasting networks such as iHeartRadio, Spotify, so many awesome deals. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, and be sure to also check me out on Twitter at RealFNGame. And it's been an honor and a privilege to have you guys on the podcast. Thank you guys for your time, and thank you for coming on here. This has been absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much for having us. It was an honor, and we enjoyed it.
Yeah, I just peed in a mug because I didn't want to get up from this exciting experience.
So
that's a normal Tuesday night for Brady.
Oh man! So again, be sure to check these guys out and be sure to listen to their podcast. It's absolutely entertaining, absolutely fun. So for the Movie Men podcast, for Pete as well as for Brady, I've been Nate the effing great. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.